Coming on the air with breaking news from the Supreme Court at this hour. The justices handing down the highly anticipated ruling on abortion and the fate of the landmark Roe versus Wade decision. This is a majority opinion written by Justice Samuel Alito, very close to what was leaked several weeks back. The justice is saying we hold that Roe and Casey must be overruled. I want to bring in Terry Moran, who has covered the Supreme Court for many years. Terry, bottom line, what has the court said this morning?
Bottom line, Roe versus Wade is overruled. There is no constitutional right to an abortion in this country anymore.
Overturns Roe v. Wade.
This decision is an outrage. It's illegitimate.
This is a moment 50 years in the making.
Emotions running high on both sides.
It feels like my country doesn't love me and appreciate my body as a woman.
Complete and utter joy that it was finally overturned, but the determination, a steely determination that the battle is not over.
Reaction pouring in with the constitutional right to abortion now over.
We're going to have two Americas. We're going to have one America where abortion is still available, or one America where it's not.
From leaders and lawmakers.
It's a sad day for the court and for the country.
The right to life has been vindicated. The voiceless will finally have a voice.
To healthcare providers.
We are staring at a dire public health emergency that, if it goes unaddressed, will cost lives.
This investigation of Planned Parenthood is based on false premises, one after another after another. It's time to stop wasting time, get on with meaningful work, and stop picking on women and trying to take their choice away. I yield back the balance of my time.
The time of the gentleman has expired. We welcome our distinguished witnesses today. Do you and each of you swear that the testimony that you are about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? And I'll now begin by introducing today's witnesses. The first witness is Dr. Anthony Levatino. Dr. Levatino is a board-certified obstetrician gynecologist. Over the course of his career, Dr. Levatino has practiced obstetrics and gynecology in both private and university settings, including as an associate professor of OBGYN at the Albany Medical College. And Dr. Levatino, we'll begin with you. Welcome.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. I only have 5 minutes, so I'm going to get right to it. Second trimester D&E abortions performed between roughly 14 and 24 weeks of gestation. Your patient today is 17 years old. She's 22 weeks pregnant. Her baby is the length of your hand plus a couple of inches. And she's been feeling her baby kick for the last several weeks, but she's asleep on an operating room table. You walk into that operating room scrubbed and gowned, and after removing laminaria, you introduce a suction catheter into the uterus. This is a 14 French suction catheter. If she were 12 weeks pregnant or less, basically the width of your hand or smaller, you could basically do the entire procedure with this. But babies this big don't fit through catheters this size. After suctioning the amniotic fluid out from around the baby, you introduce an instrument called a Sofer clamp. It's about 13 inches long. It's made of stainless steel. The business end of this clamp is about 2.5 inches long and a half-inch wide. There are rows of sharp teeth. This is a grasping instrument, and when it gets a hold of something, it does not let go. A D&E procedure is a blind abortion, so picture yourself introducing this and grabbing anything you can blindly and pull, and I do mean hard, and out pops a leg about that big, which you put down on the table next to you. Reach in again, and pull out an arm about the same length, which you put down on the table next to you. And use this instrument again and again to tear out the spine, the intestines, the heart and lungs. Head on the baby that size is about the size of a large plum. Can't see it, but you pretty good idea you've got it if you've got your instrument around something and your fingers are spread about as far as they go. You know you did it right if you crush down on the instrument and white material runs out of the cervix. That was the baby's brains. Then you could pull out skull pieces. And you have a day like I had a lot of times, sometimes a little face comes back and stares back at you. Congratulations, you just successfully performed a second trimester D&E abortion. You just affirmed her right to choose.
This is the moment America and women's rights went back in time. 50 years after legalizing abortion, the Supreme Court reversing a constitutional right for the first time. It is a decision which defines the deep divides in American life. For some, cause for celebration.
So happy! That's a blessing, it's a miracle.
For others, a deeply personal betrayal.
I've had an abortion. I'll speak about that openly. I was 19 years old. I still sit with the grief of that. I sit with the shame of that. It's very nuanced. It doesn't mean, if we make that choice, it doesn't mean we're happy about it. But at least we had the opportunity. I didn't have the funding to take care of a child the way I wanted to. I didn't have the opportunities that a lot of these people have to take care of their kids.
More than half of America's 50 states will severely restrict or ban abortion in the coming hours and days. It is a seismic shift which moved angry lawmakers to march through the Capitol.
This is part of the Republican Party's dark vision for America. They want to roll back every possible right that has been earned over the decades. It is an anti-woman agenda. The Supreme Court has lost its legitimacy.
Trying to tell women what to do with their bodies, that is absolutely ridiculous. Our choice.
We're not going back. We're not going to be treated as second-class citizens, and we're dang on sure not going to be treated as property.
An intervention too from the president, a practicing Catholic who has wrestled with his feelings on abortion in the past, this time unequivocal.
It's a sad day for the court and for the country. Now, with Roe gone, let's be very clear. The health and life of women in this nation are now at risk.
5 of these 9 Supreme Court justices voted to overturn Roe versus Wade, a 1973 ruling which legalised abortion to the point of fetal viability. In his opinion, Justice Samuel Alito wrote, Roe was egregiously wrong from the start. Its reasoning was exceptionally weak, and the decision has had damaging consequences. Another judge said the court should reconsider rulings that now protect contraception and same-sex marriage.
Do you worry about same-sex marriage? There was a line.
Absolutely. I absolutely do. I absolutely do worry about same-sex marriage. I worry about the policing of all sex acts in general.
For people outside America, this feels quite dystopian.
It is dystopian. It is dystopian.
The Supreme Court hasn't arrived at this point by accident. Its newly conservative composition is the product of political manoeuvring. This decision, the result of decades of campaigning by old and young.
Today is the day we usher in a new era for the United States that protects life, that protects the unborn, that supports women.
This is undeniably a new era for America, but others will argue it's a repressive and regressive move, the full force of which will be felt by women in cities and states far from here. Martha Kellner, Sky.
You live in a country of hypocrites. What do you mean, preacher? Let me tell you something. You have between 50 and 60 million children that have died in this country at the hands of butchers. Between 50 and 60 million. Now think about what I'm about to say. If you support that, then it means that when you come across to people that you are compassionate, and you come across to people that you care for children, and you come across to people that you're a loving person and you're a kind, considerate person, you're really acting. Because the real you consents to the murder of unborn children. And so you live in a country of actors. This is why they can fly off the handle so quickly.
The radical left rampaging across the country over Roe versus Wade, while Democrats attack the Supreme Court's legitimacy. The FBI is investigating after pro-abortion extremists torched a pro-life Colorado pregnancy center, leaving behind graffiti that says, "If abortions aren't safe, neither are you." In Los Angeles, a man is facing possible attempted murder charges after attacking a cop with a makeshift flamethrower during a protest over there. And total chaos in Phoenix, where Arizona lawmakers say they were held hostage by an angry crowd outside the state capitol. Police eventually had to use tear gas to clear them out.
You punk! Come on, you're a punk!
vandalism in the wake of this ruling. The first one happened in Fairfax County. Police say someone sprayed graffiti and set a small fire at the St. John Newman Catholic Community Church in Reston yesterday. Firefighters say they saw graffiti sprayed on a sign of the church. Police found more graffiti sprayed on the back of the building. The graffiti was related to the Supreme Court's abortion decision.
Meantime, police in Lynchburg, Virginia, are also investigating an act of vandalism. This happened on Saturday at the Blue Ridge Pregnancy Center. Now, that center counsels women with unplanned pregnancies but does not refer them for abortions. Security footage shows 4 masked people spraying graffiti on the building. In response, Governor Glenn Youngkin tweeted, quote, "There is no room for this in
This is crazy."
Up close and personal, stained in red.
It's an effort of intimidation, I think, to try to silence the church, but to silence our people as well.
The words, "My body, my choice," were painted on the wall of Ascension Catholic School in Overland Park.
Vandalized a church on the city's east side. Vandals spray painted a message on the front door of St. Bernard Catholic Church. The message contained profanity and criticizes the church's stance on abortion. It also accuses the church of being responsible for the deaths of Native American children. We did try to reach out to church members and leadership, but they declined our interviews. Officers say the graffiti was likely done overnight, and anyone with information should please call.
No arrests so far after a Christian crisis pregnancy center in Longmont was vandalized and then set on fire. Happened early Saturday morning. Abortion rights messages were sprayed onto the Life Choices Center, smoke and flames damaging the building. Investigators are hoping they might get some clues from surveillance cameras in that area. It's believed the crime happened between 2:45 and 3:30.
This is why they can get mad at you so fast. This is why that they can turn on you so quickly. It's because that if you will kill an innocent baby in its mother's womb, and friend, this Gosnell, do you know who I'm talking about? Yeah. They would take little babies out of the womb that were kicking and screaming, alive, little babies alive, and they used the scissors for them. And they would cut the cord of the neck leading to their head. And the little things would die. And he was doing a service. And so some of the reverends up in New England or somewhere come out and they're going to bless the abortion clinics. Let me ask you a question, Reverend. If you're going to bless the abortion, what procedure do you bless? Or what is it that you're blessing? Are you asking God to let the babies die quickly? Or what are you asking God to do? You're asking him to bless them. To ask to bless is to ask God to intervene, right? If I pray for God to bless you, I'm asking for God to bless you. You understand how perverted our country is? Folks, these people aren't really human beings in the full sense of the word. They're perverts. You have to understand. Somebody's got to say to you, don't smile at me and tell me how you're compassionate with people, how you want to feed the hungry, how you care for this. No, you're a liar. You're an actor. Because if you don't care for the most vulnerable in our country, the little babies, then you do not care for. You're just kidding yourself. You're living a delusion.
One more question, Dr. Levatino. Why did you end your practice of doing abortions?
I did over 1,200 abortions over a 4-year period in private practice, not counting the ones that I did during my training. I met my wife during my first year of training at Albany Medical Center. We got married about a year later and found that we had an infertility problem. After years of failed infertility treatment and several years trying to adopt a child, we were blessed with adopting a little girl that we named Heather in August of 1978. As sometimes happens in those situations, my wife got pregnant the very next month, and we had 2 children 10 months apart. 2 months short of my daughter Heather's 6th birthday, she was killed in an auto accident and literally died in her arms in the back of an ambulance. Anyone who has children might think they have some idea of what that feels like, but unless you've been through it yourself, you have no idea whatsoever. I know people find it hard to believe, but what do you do after disaster? You bury your child and then you go back to your life. And I don't remember exactly how long it was after my daughter died that I showed up at Albany Medical Center OR number 9 to perform my first second trimester D&E abortion. I wasn't thinking of it as anything special. This was routine to me. But I reached in, literally pulled out an arm or leg and got sick. You know, earlier on I described stacking up body parts on the side of the table. It's not to, gross people out, to use a simple term. When you do an abortion, you need to keep inventory. You have to make sure you get 2 arms and 2 legs and all the pieces. If you don't, your patient's going to come back infected, bleeding, or dead. So I soldiered on and finished that abortion. And I know it sounds, as I said, hard for people to believe, but I'm telling you straight up my experience. You know, after over 1,200 abortions, first and second trimester up to 24 weeks and all the rest of it, and being very dedicated to it, for the first time in my life, I really looked. I really looked at that pile of body parts on the side of the table. And I didn't see her wonderful right to choose, and I didn't see all the money I just made. All I could see was somebody's son or daughter. And I stopped doing late-term abortions after that, and several months later stopped doing all abortions.
There's still a question. Thank you.